I will be doing my project off of interpersonal communications. Rakisha Howe is my name. Liberty University is my school. HSCO 508 is the class. Table of contents. I will talk about my introduction, overarching goal, what is interpersonal communication, enlarging the conversation, my very own identity, behavioral pattern, behavioral blend breakdown, barriers in listening communication, dealing with barriers, personal goals, overarching goals, and lastly, my conclusion. Next slide. Introduction. This project consists of many different issues that we encounter with when it comes to conversing on a daily basis. When it comes to conversing with others, the way we communicate solely depends on many things such as one's environment, social life, and personal connections. Here's a quote by Muriel Giuliano. It states, "Intelligence, knowledge, or experience are important and might get you a job, but strong communication skills are what will get you promoted." Next slide. Overarching goal. To perform good communication skills, one should take heed of the whole conversation instead of having selective listening and hearing. While working on my personal communication skills, I plan to set aside my own opinions so that the conversation I have with others can progress. I plan to take responsibility so that I can fix my weaknesses and strengthen my strongholds. Next slide. What is interpersonal communication? Stewart explains that interpersonal communication focuses on the movement of conversation as it moves from talking and listening about general ideas, stereotype understanding, mechanical and objective, facts and claims, mindless reactions, and unreflective comments towards listening and talking about different perceptions, choices, feelings, and reactions. According to Forge, researchers have indicated that a positive outcome promotes disclosure of intimate and varied information about the self, and that personal disclosure of this sort represents an effective strategy for enhancing interpersonal relationships. Next slide. Enlarging the conversation. Enlarging the conversation is a very important masterpiece in communicating. Enlarging the conversation is an open line in communicating that allows both parties to have a chance to be heard and seen in the aspects of listening and talking. Enlarging the conversation does have few barriers, and that could be because of different backgrounds, education, culture, religion, etc. When it comes to conversing, identify need plus intentional resources equals enlarging the conversation. Next slide. My very own identity. Here are my initials. I'm 28 years old. I am an African American female. I am a Christian. I'm single. I came from a low/middle class family. I was born and raised in Kingston, North Carolina, which is in Lenoir County. I have a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and I do plan to further my education by getting a master's degree in substance abuse and addiction. Next slide. Behavior blend. According to Carbonell, he states that behavior blend is a combination of 4 different temperaments, which are DISC. D represent dominant, I represent inspiring, S represent supportive, and C represent cautious. Behavior blend creates a person's true distinctive personality and allows one to be aware of ourselves and provides an overview of our strengths and developmental needs. This is what is expected of me, SD, and this is what I am, CS. Next slide. My behavior blend. My positives are I'm dominant, I'm strong-willed, I'm serious, I get to the point, and I stick to my task. The negatives are I overthink everything. I'm a strict individual. Which I need to learn to relax some, and I also need to become more sensitive when I'm dealing with others' feelings. Next slide. Breakdown for a behavior blend. Basic motivation equals quality and correctness. Desires equals clearly defined tasks to leader. Defined tasks. I respond best to provides reassurance, provide resources, and listen to suggestions. Needs that I need to work on. Total support is not always possible. Deadlines must be met. And more optimism mean more success. Next slide. Acknowledging and recognizing potential barriers. I need to avoid being a biased listener. Control green and red flag words. Listen with understanding without being judgmental and critical. Use eye contact. Emotions on listening. Next slide. Noise pollution. According to Alex Gonzalez, she states that noise features unconventional characteristics that make it different from every other classic pollutant. Noise pollution can be external and internal. External noise pollution can include clock watching, talker not speaking loud enough or whispering, the decors on the wall, loud noise such as traffic or machinery, chewing gum, or fidgeting. Next slide. Internal noise pollutions can include daydreaming, mental tangents, rebuttal, being fatigued, and stressed. Next slide. My future plans. I plan to accept my own identity, respect others' conversation, avoid giving advice, agreeing, disagreeing, and defending, be more mindful of others, and I need to be patient. I also should encourage others to speak what's on their mind, be consistent, find common interests, remain calm enough to hear, and provide safety. Next slide. My future plans also. Peterson suggests that a good listener goals are to provide safety, understand, and to clarify to the individuals that one is conversing with, to listen wholeheartedly and not to become judgmental with my own personal thoughts and suggestions, produce a great spirit and attitude that I may hear and respond Christ-like, become more empathetic, meaning I need to learn how to put myself in others' shoes, restate what the one is saying so that I can make sure I am comprehending what they are actually saying and not what I think I'm hearing. And also have a disciplined mind so that I can remain focused. Next slide. Overarching conclusion. We must not forget that the conversation is the relationship. Next slide. Conclusion. Communication is by far a main ingredient when prospering in life. Poor communication is like brittle and dried up leaves. It is there, but it's useless to use. Communication is needed for nonverbal and verbal cues. Barry Goldberg states that our mind is not our friend when it comes to listening, and that our brains are natural associates engines. In addition, as listeners, we must focus on more than spoken words. Learning to read someone's body gestures or nonverbal and verbal cues makes listening easier. Interpersonal communication deals with conversation and it moves from one idea to another. Again, interpersonal communication can come in forms of context, relationships, gender, race, and etc. Next slide. Here are my references. And I hope you all have a blessed day. Happy holidays.